Hi everyone, welcome back to Box Delights. Today we're playing Cellulose, a plant cell biology game from Genius Games. I love Genius Games. Genius Games present us with all sorts of different games. They're kind of these science-based games where I always tend to learn loads of stuff. They often produce these science behind supplements that explain all the elements that go into their games. Cellulose is a follow-up to Cytosis, a cell biology game. I'm going to be showing you the solo game which Steve Schlephorst has designed, where we're competing against a plant called Ivy. Our job is to take on the role of a plant cell. Do you ever want to be a plant cell in the game? This is it. This is your game. It's a worker placement game, so all the activities that a plant cell perform, we're going to learn about those. Complete building the cell wall, which is around here. So this is all the worker placement areas. Here's the cell wall. This is the xylem, which we can absorb water. Now water and proteins, so minerals that you collect, come from the root system of your plant. You start as a little seedling, and as you grow, your roots and shoots grow. So one of the functions of the cell is to produce growth hormones that allow you to grow your plant. The root system will collect water, and water absorbs minerals. So there's water and minerals, these proteins, that help you perform functions in the plant cell. And then shoots help you collect carbon dioxide and perform photosynthesis to turn water and CO2 into carbohydrates. And carbohydrates let you to build your plant wall. Okay, so that's the fundamentals of it. You decide, as operator of the plant cell, which functions you want your plant cell to perform. There's two sides to this board. This is the 4 to 5 player side. On the reverse is the 1 to 3 player side. So there's different worker placement spots depending on the player count. There's all sorts of components that you can collect. Water and CO2 produce carbohydrates. Proteins, which are amino acid chains. Proteins perform many different functions within the cell. As far as the game's concerned, proteins help you do stuff. They're like the fuel for reactions inside the plant cell. And these proteins that catalyze reactions are known as enzymes. Enzymes are on these cards, all right? So they allow you to do stuff like this one here. This GH3 synthetase is enzyme, requires 3 protein to fuel it, and it allows you to do more plant growth. Okay, so these enzymes driven by proteins or fueled by proteins allow the cell to kind of accelerate their actions, do more stuff. Hormones, these are plant growth hormones. So the cell produces these and it can promote the growth of your plants, shoots and roots, to collect more water, more CO2, to produce more carbohydrates, to build the cell wall. Okay. The other function for carbohydrates is they can create the 6th resource in the game, ATP. That's these things. We use carbohydrates in the mitochondria to produce energy. And energy can also be used, like proteins, to fuel reactions in other parts of the plant cell. So you'll see some enzymes will not just need proteins, but energy as well. Now the aim of the game is to score victory points. There's a victory point track running around the outside. These victory points are called health points in this game. Building the cell wall produces a healthy plant, a healthy cell. Right, so these numbers here say how many health points, how many victory points you gain. But also building these enzymes give you victory points. There's other types of cards too, like these starch cards give a big chunk of health points. We've got these protein storage vacuoles, which give big points for collecting lots of water and protein. And then significantly, these pink cards are specializations. You can have your plants specialize in certain things, giving you health points at the end of the game depending on the type of plant that you've grown. Okay, Okay, incidentally, there is a flip side to this board as well. Here we've got a mangrove plant, different types of shoots and roots, and the game provides these different scenarios. So actually there's a cactus scenario as well, and the mangrove scenario. So let's see, how does this game play? We've got different phases of the game. You've got sunrise, then you've got the daytime phase where you're placing your workers, if you like, these represented by these little flasks, on the plant cell to perform activities in the plant cell. And then you've got the night phase where you kind of clean up, check for game end, move to the next turn. We'll look at that as we learn to play as we play. We've also got a special solo card that drives Ivy's actions. Alright, let's get set up then and learn how to play. This is the water level. I'm going to start here. This shows how much water, how effective is our cell at collecting water from the xylem. The xylem transports water from the roots to the cells. Okay. So as we build the cell wall, we are effective at collecting more water from the xylem. So we start down here at 5 at this single spot. Okay. Once we get through the second section, we complete the build this, and we start building this, we move up to 6, and then finally 8. Okay. So that's our starting water level. Like I say, these are our workers, these flasks. We start with 3 of these of our colour, and then we've got a grey flask. These are more generic ones. So we get in the solo 2-player, we start with an extra flask, but there's also one available in the central vacuole, and one player will get this extra worker, if you like, every turn. In our cell, as we're collecting water, this is our water resources, these blue cubes. We can use this water for different things, so photosynthesis into carbohydrates, right? Synthesize into carbohydrates, or we can contribute water to the central vacuole. This is the central vacuole here. This central vacuole, as it fills with water, it expands. It makes up between 70 and 90% of a plant cell. And this is what gives the plant cell its rigidity, its structure. And that's why when a plant has less water, the pressure in the central vacuole is reduced. There's less water pushing outwards, collecting in here, and the plant cell wilts and the plant wilts. There's other stuff in here, nutrients and waste products and what have you. In the game, it's all about how much water we contribute to the central vacuole. Will earn us points. The player who contributes the most will earn this extra flask. You know, you've helped the cell will help you. Alright, so that one's going to start here in the central vacuole. We have a victory point marker. It's got 2 sides, it's got 50, so you can go, if you wrap around the track from 49 back to 50, you flip the track. So we start on 0. Ivy has one too. Let's make her blue, so we'll give her the blue health point token. We'll start her on 0. We also have a marker each to say where we start our progress in the central vacuole. As each turn goes by, whoever contributes most water gets to tick up this track and score some points. We also have some plant growth markers. This is our plant. Ivy is down here. She has her own little ivy climbing up. So she's going to start with one marker at the bottom and also one marker in the middle here on this blue dot. We'll come back to that in a bit. Our plant is this big one over here. We start the game with just a little seedling, right? There's no plant growth. So we're going to place one marker for the shoots and one for the roots here. As we grow, we can push this marker upwards. As we sink our roots, this marker comes downwards. Ivy also needs her action markers. One grey one. We get 4 actions each in the 1 and 2 player games. I've got a big pool of tokens. Mine's messy. You might want a tidier one. This is the first player marker. We're going to begin as first player. We're going to set up over here. These are the cell component cards. We're going to give those a shuffle. And we're going to place 4 of them in these spaces on the board. This is like an offer. So yes, we're playing a plant cell, and it is very abstract, right? But great fun all the same. So we've got some variety in here. We've got a couple of enzymes. We've got a starch here. Probably not going to get this. This is very expensive. Lots of points. And the PSV as well. Now Ivy's board has two sides. This is set to the easy side. I'm actually going to flip it, and we're going to play on medium. Okay, so this is medium and hard side. And we'll talk about this when we get there. But she gets some bonuses depending on which strategy she adopts. This little grid here is her strategy map. As her ivy grows, depending on the actions that she takes, which is going to be driven by her AI, her plant will start to specialize in one of 4 directions. Okay, so she's going to gravitate towards each corner of this strategy, which means there's 4 types of ivy. Which one she becomes, we won't know until the game gets going, right? And that's what this strategy map is all about. What type of ivy are we facing? And the type of specializations that she adopts or adapts to will determine the bonuses that she gets at different phases of the game. In easy game, she doesn't get these additional bonuses, so you can outscore her quite easily. In the hard game, she starts with some specializations. In the medium game, she doesn't. Talking of which, this is her AI deck. In the bottom right, there's some different icons. There's 4 cards. These are the specializations, and they reflect the 4 corners of the strategy grid, or the 4 sides of the strategy grid. She'll only earn these once she's earned those specializations, okay, as she grows. We'll put those aside for now. There's some that have this single line in the bottom right, and some that have the double line. These double line cards, she's only going to achieve those once we've reached a certain point in the cell wall, okay? Once we've grown that cell wall. We'll put those aside. So for the start of the game, she just has these 7 cards, okay, with the single line in the bottom. Give them a shuffle, and this is going to drive her actions. Okay, ready to go. So we're first player. Sunrise. The first thing we do is collect from our roots and shoots how much water, how much CO2. At the start of the game, we don't get any water here. Our roots aren't deep enough. We've got 1 little shoot, which is going to give us 1 CO2. That's it. So we've got 1 CO2 to start us off. Let's think about our strategy. I think it makes sense to try and promote some growth over here in the plant first. It's always worth looking at the card offer. Some of these cards may give us some bonus actions that, and the sooner we get them, particularly enzymes, the sooner we can get them going. So this is a nice card. And it says free above it. We could place our flask here in this little worker placement spot and grab this card for free. We could place our worker placement over here, but it's got a cost associated with it. If you see a number in red, that's a cost, and this is 1 CO2. So if we wanted to grab this starch card, we could do. As you go up the offer, they're more expensive. Now these cards, at the end of the turn, we're going to lose the cards that are in the spots 1 and 2, and then these are going to slide down, and then we refill. So these could come back unless we take them or Ivy takes them. They could stick around for turn 2 and become cheaper. Now the good thing about these enzymes is every time you play an enzyme card, you get an immediate benefit, okay, which is this thing here. So it says we can take the photosynthesize action twice and we gain 2 health points, but it's going to cost us 2 protein. Photosynthesis needs water and carbon dioxide. Okay, that's how we turn water and CO2 into carbohydrates. But that's a one-time effect, but this sits in our player area. And now every time we play a new enzyme, let's say we then subsequently played this one, you kind of place it on top. This one's effects would trigger. This one does nothing as it goes. It just gives you 2 health points, but it is cheap. You play this card, then you trigger every other enzyme that you've currently played, or played previously, this bottom ability. So if I played Rubisco, took its one-time effect, then I played amylase, I could then, again it's 2 health points, I could then trigger this ongoing effect. Okay, and this is a free photosynthesize action once. It's going to cost 1 protein. But these things then stack, so the more and more enzymes you build up, every time you play an enzyme, you can then trigger off action after action after action. And as this builds up, you become more and more effective. Does that make sense? All right, we'll see it as we play. But you can see enzymes are great because they have these ongoing effects once they're in your play area. These things, these are one-time effects. All right, so it's always nice to grab enzymes and build them up. So I'm tempted by this one, but I don't have any water, I don't have enough CO2 to do a photosynthesize action yet. A photosynthesis action needs 6 water and 6 CO2. I need to start growing and building the capability of collecting that stuff. Now, you can always collect water and CO2 using your actions from the xylem and the stomata. So I think as my first action, I'm going to take this enzyme. I'll place my flask in these worker placement spots, these little rectangles. What this means is no one else can come in here, so she can't put her flask in here now. Right? This is a 1 flask spot. There's other shaped worker spots, these ones here, these are bigger. What these mean is multiple people can put their flasks in here. So I could put a flask in here, she could put a flask in here. But you can't put a second one of your colour, alright? It's 1 per colour. But remember, we do have a grey flask. Each of us has got a grey one. So she could come in here, I could come in here, and I could come in again with a grey one, but then she couldn't put her grey one in there. Okay, so it's 1 flask per colour. But for now, I'm going in this single spot. Only I can use this spot. There's another single spot here, do you see? They're scattered around in the cell. We'll look at them in detail as we get to them. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to grab this while I can, the Rubisco enzyme. And this goes in my hand. Okay, so we're not playing it yet. Right, her turn. Ivy's go. What's Ivy going to do? So Ivy draws the top card of this AI deck. All right. It says, and there's this reference card that helps you with this. She's going to perform this action up here. It says she's going to collect water or CO2, whichever she has the less of. At the moment she has none of any. If tied, she'll take water. And then this little +2 says, if collecting water, which she's going to do, she'll add 2, this is a +2, to the central vacuole. Right, so that's the action she's going to choose. If she couldn't do it, then she would skip this action and we'd have to draw again. Okay. So she takes one of her action tokens. She always places her grey flask first, and she wants to collect water. Now water comes from the xylem. Right, so she's going to place her action token here. The xylem transports water into the cell. How much water is given by this token? So this would normally be 5 water. However, Ivy's got a special rule. Whenever she collects water, she always collects 6 water. It doesn't matter where this thing is. She always collects 6 water. These are the water cubes. Right, there's 6 of them. But we also have these tokens that represent 6 blue cubes. So she's going to collect one of those using this action. This is a multi-flask spot, so many different coloured flasks can come in these spots. There's also a single spot here for collecting CO2. In our game, the stomata is used to transport CO2. So you could put, there's a single spot here to grab 6 or a spot here to grab 4. Again, whenever Ivy grabs CO2, she always grabs 6. Now remember, there was the additional action. She'll take the 6 water and she'll add 2 to the central vacuole. Normally you can add 0 to 3, it's up to you, of the water that you've grabbed. So if we would go in here, we'd grab 5 water and we could put, of that 5, 0 to 3 of it in the central vacuole. She gets an additional 2 just because of her special action. place in the central vacuole. And she's blue, so she's going to place hers in this section here. We're pink, so we'd be placing water up in this little section here. Right, so she's placing her 2 water here. Remember, whoever's placed the most water at the end of the turn moves up this track. And as it goes, gets the extra flask token for next time. Right, there's one last thing we need to do. Whenever you use the xylem and the stomata, this drops 1 level. So collecting CO2 decreases water availability, as does collecting water. I'm going to grab water now. I'm going to put my flask up here, my pink one. We're going to take 4 water. And then the water level drops. Now of that 4, we could put some in the central vacuole if we wished. I'm going to keep all 4 of my water, I think, for now. Yep. Alright, her turn. Okay. This says if she can grab 8 or more victory points, which she could, she'll build cell wall. However, she doesn't have any carbohydrates, so she can't take that action. She's not normally limited by resources, okay, but she's limited by water, she's limited by CO2, and she's limited by carbohydrate. That's all we need to worry about for Ivy. The next action says, so if she can't do this one, she'll skip to the next one, which says photosynthesize. To photosynthesize, she needs 6 water, which she's got, and 6 CO2, which she doesn't have. So she's going to skip past that one, and it says then, if she can't do this, she'll collect CO2. So that's the next action priority. So that's what she's going to do. She's going to place her flask. Now she could place it in the 4 spot or the 6 spot. She's going to place it in the most valuable spot she can. So she's denied me this. That was going to be what I was going to do next. That's okay. Right, so she's placed it in here. She takes 6 CO2. She always takes 6 CO2. Right, so now she's got the resources she needs to photosynthesize. And remember, water level drops down. What that means is I can't collect water anymore. Right, I can't anyway because my flask is already up here. Right, and there's already a grey flask in there. So water was out anyway. But we still can collect CO2 if we wish. I've got a grey flask and a pink flask. She's already used the grey flask. I'm going to leave that for a minute. I will come and get CO2, but I'm going to do something else first. Actually, I don't know if I will collect CO2. I haven't got enough actions left. No, I'm going to go to the cytoplasm, which is over here. So in the cytoplasm, we synthesize hormones. So this is another function that the plant cell can perform. There's 2 spots. We can take the 2 spot or the 3 spot. Of course, we're going to take the 3 spot. If you see a white number, that means it produces something. If you see a red number in the game, it's a cost. Okay, so nice and easy graphics. So this produces 3 plant growth hormones. Let's take them. 1, 2, 3. Lovely. Right, that's my action. I've got 1 action left. She's got 2 actions left. Let's see what she does next. Okay, so she's going to try and build the plant wall if she can. She can't. This says if she has a matching strategy, in this case the PSV strategy, this one here, or orange, the enzyme strategy, then she'll grab a PSV card or an enzyme card. She doesn't have a matching strategy yet. We'll come to those in a bit when they happen, alright? So she's not doing this bit, strategy's not here or here. So then she will instead grab water or CO2. She can't grab water because the water level's in the X spot. So she'll grab CO2. So she's going to this 4 spot. Fortunately, she's not using a grey flask, so we could use our grey flask there still. Right, so she's grabbing another 6 CO2. Right, that's her turn. Our final turn, we're not going to grab CO2. We're going to go to the plasma membrane up over here. There's 3 spots here. If we go here, we can grow our shoots. If we go here, we can grow our roots. If we go here, then we can grow our shoots or our roots, but it's going to cost us 1 protein, which we don't have any of yet. Protein we collect through water from our roots. Remember, it's dissolved in water. Or, actually, you can create protein, you can synthesize protein up here in the ribosomes area. Okay, but we only need to use this if somebody else had taken these spots. Okay, so we're going to take this one, grow our roots, it's free, and that's because we want to move our marker. All right. Now when we grow our roots, there's branches. We can either go this way, we can go this way, or we can go this way. Each one has an associated cost. So this one will cost 2 growth hormones. And see this exclamation mark, if you see an exclamation mark, that's an immediate gain, an immediate benefit. If we came here, we would immediately grab 6 water. These ones on this kind of flag, these happen at sunrise. So remember in sunrise we did this, we collected 1 CO2 and 0 water. If we come this way, every sunrise now we would collect 3 water. But we can never go back with our marker. So if we choose to put our roots this way, that's it, that's our roots done. The rest of the game we'll be collecting 3 water every sunrise. That's a one-time benefit when we come in here. Same over this way. Okay, 1 energy, it costs us, and 2 growth hormones. Every sunrise we'd get 3 water, and we get to add 2 water to the central vacuole. That's what that means. Or we could choose to come this way. It costs just 1 growth hormone. We'd only get 2 every sunrise. But, I mean, this one's quite good. We can come this way, and then we've got a further path this way. If we come here, we've got 2 more branches. If we choose this way, we could get deeper roots. Okay. So actually, I'm going to come this way. I'm going to pay the 1 cost, the hormone that we collected, the growth hormone. There's no immediate benefit. There's no symbol with an exclamation point. But next sunrise, we'll get 2 water. Right, so that's what I'm doing. So already we've started down a strategy path. Do you see? Okay, that's my final action. They've got 1 more left. See what she does. Okay, if she'd fix the strategy, she'll grab a pink card, a specialization card. She's not. Otherwise, she will. If she's got 2 actions left, she'll place 1. She'll do what we just did. She'll place 1 in the cytoplasm, 1 in the plasma membrane, and promote the growth of her plant. She can't do this because she's only got 1 action left, so she's going to skip that one. So instead, she's going to do this ATP action. So the ATP action is in the mitochondria. Now she has a special rule, normally in the mitochondria, where energy is produced. Okay, this is cellular respiration, turning water and CO2 via carbohydrates into energy. Normally you have to pay 1 carbohydrate, but she's got a special rule that says no resources are taken or paid. So she's just blocking off a space. She's going to go for the most expensive one. She doesn't pay any carbohydrates, she doesn't gain any energy. Alright, she's just blocking off a space. As it goes, that was a little bit moot because that was her final action. Now that's it, we've reached the end of the daylight phase. We've taken turns placing flasks to take an action. So now we prepare for the next round. We recover our action markers. They all come back. Alright, so 3 pink and a grey for me, 3 blue and a grey for her. And then it says the winner of the central vacuole gains health points, removes the water, and then takes the spare flask. So who won? We placed 0, she placed 2, so we remove those 2. She moves up the track and gains 1 health point and the flask. Okay, so she moves up to 1 VP. And now we'll see the first strategy move for Ivy. She's gained a health point as the central vacuole reward. Okay, so she moves left on her strategy 1 spot. If she gained another, this would get stuck here. If she drew a blue PSV card, it would move back to the centre. Okay, so there's a little bit of a tug-and-war struggle going on, and up and down at the same time. So this one, every time her plant grows, the strategy moves up. If she pulls an orange card, it moves down. Okay, until it hits one of these extremities. As soon as it hits here, that's it then. This is not going to move left or right anymore. It can still go up or down until then it gets locked in once it hits a corner, and then it's stuck, and that's her final strategy point. Right, and each time this point is hit, she'll grab the corresponding card and add it to her discard pile. So if it goes all the way over to the left, she'd grab this one. Okay, taking water. So this strategy means she's more interested in grabbing more water. That makes sense? Okay, cool. So 1 point to the left is where her strategy currently is. Okay, the next thing we do, the game automatically progresses. We add the next carbohydrate to the cell wall and check for game end. So we take one from the supply and we place it here. So nobody placed any, no one photosynthesized, created the carbohydrate and took this action. So those 12 victory points are no longer available. Right? So the game is going to tick up on its own. Even if we don't build the cell wall, the game will progress. The cell will grow on its own without our intervention. Right? So all the actions that we're taking is just accelerating things, really. Right. Next, we reset the water level to whichever level the cell wall is currently at. So back up to 5, this one single line level. Then it says, remove cards in X spaces, slide down and refill. Okay, these are the X spaces. So these are removed. We place them in a discard pile. These slide down and we refill. Got a starch and a specialization. These costs, by the way, these are the costs to play the card, right? These are the costs to take the card and put it in our hand. Cost to play the card from our hand into our play area. There we go. That's a round complete. We move on to round 2 and sunrise phase.